At 5:30 a.m. on a cold Sunday morning, something impossible happened in Toronto. For the first time in 15 years, a train pulled into the station, not just any train, a $13 billion promise that some thought would never come. People waited through the night, not for a concert, not for a sale. They waited to ride a train because this wasn't just any opening day. This was the day Toronto found out if the most expensive transit project in Canadian history was worth destroying half the city to build. 15 years, 5 mayors, 3 governments, $13 billion, and absolutely zero celebration when it finally opened. Why? Because they weren't sure it would actually work. But here's what happened next that nobody saw coming. I'm Raza, and I've spent the last week decoding the real story behind Toronto's most controversial mega project. In the next 10 minutes, you're getting exclusive access to what $13 billion actually bought and whether this gamble will save the city or bankrupt it. Let's decode the most Canadian transit opening ever. While cities around the world throw parties for new transit lines, Toronto's approach? Please report your complaints to us. The TTC literally ran ads asking people to report frustrations. No ribbons, no speeches. CEO Mandeep Lally was so nervous about emergency brake issues that he only confirmed the opening date 1 week before the launch. But here's what they didn't expect. Torontonians didn't care about the lack of ceremony. People queued through the night just to ride the first trains. Impromptu celebrations broke out at stations across the line. After 15 years of Eglinton under construction signs, the city celebrated anyway. One of the passengers who rode this LRT on its first day commented, "I've been watching this thing get built since my kids were in elementary school. They are in high school now. This feels like Christmas morning to me." Think about that timeline. The project started when the iPhone didn't exist. It survived 5 mayors, 3 provincial governments, a global pandemic, and became such a meme that Eglinton will open, joins, the Leafs will win the cup in Toronto's lexicon of impossible dreams. Now let's decode the numbers and rip the band-aid off. The Eglinton Crosstown cost over $13 billion. That's billion with a B, to put that in perspective. Now, you could build the entire Montreal metro system twice and still have $2 billion left over. It's more expensive per kilometer than the Channel Tunnel. It costs more than Canada spent on the 2010 Olympics, the G8 Summit, and the Phoenix Space System combined. Originally budgeted at $4.6 billion back in 2010 with a planned opening several years earlier, the cost spiraled due to unforeseen challenges, complexity, and scope changes throughout the decade, plus construction period. Nearly triple the original budget represents one of the most significant cost overruns in Canadian transit history. But here's the kicker. This isn't uniquely Canadian incompetence. Similar projects in London, Sydney, and Seattle faced incomparable overruns. The Elizabeth Line in London, billions over budget and years behind schedule. The difference? They planned for delays. Toronto did not. The challenges that we faced were real. Tunneling under Yonge Street while keeping the subway running above, discovering underground rivers that weren't on any map from the 1800s, building stations around 100-year-old infrastructure and couldn't be removed. And then there was the signaling system. Now this was state-of-the-art technology that had to work seamlessly, underground and on the surface, literally 2 different systems operating as one. That alone justifies the delays. But the costs? That's where accountability questions start. But forget the construction drama. Let's decode what $13 billion actually bought. I've been riding this system, and I'll be honest, it's pretty spectacular. Travel times across the corridor have been dramatically reduced. What used to require multiple transfers and significant wait times now connect directly. For daily commuters, this means reclaiming hours every week, time with family instead of stuck in transit. These aren't our grandfather's streetcars. Each train carries 500 passengers in air-conditioned, Wi-Fi-enabled comfort. Level boarding at every station means no more subway pole vaulting for wheelchair users. Real-time displays in English, French, and rotating community languages. And here's what really matters. Every single station is fully accessible, tactical guidance strips, audio announcements, elevators that actually work for a city that built most of its subway system decades ago with zero accessibility features. This is revolutionary. Now, from the passenger interviews that were taken for the early riders, one passenger said, "I can connect across the city without endless transfers. It's genuinely life-changing." And one other passenger said, "For the first time, I can get around the city independently. This is freedom." Another passenger shared, "My commute has been cut dramatically. I can finally get back in time." But the real story isn't just transportation, it's transformation. Let me decode what's happening here. Since the project neared completion, this corridor has exploded with development. Look at Mount Dennis, which was once post-industrial land, is now home to thousands of new residents in transit-oriented developments. The old industrial sites are transforming into mixed-use community and residential, commercial, and green spaces. Along the entire corridor, billions in new development investment. Property values within walking distance of stations have increased significantly. That's not speculation, that's actual market response to improve transit accessibility. Now, this is the multiplier effect. Build one transit line, watch three industries pop up around it. Office towers relocating from the financial district to stations, startups clustering in converted warehouses, restaurants, cafes, and retailers, all betting the growth on proximity to the crosstown. Alright, let's look at the environmental impact. The line is already removing tens of thousands of car trips daily from Toronto's roads. This means substantial reductions in CO2 emissions, equivalent to taking thousands of cars off the road permanently. City economists calculate the line generates hundreds of millions of dollars annually in economic activity. The property tax revenue alone from new development will help recover the construction costs over the system's 33-year lifespan. Let's decode the current state. This is a newly opened transit system, and it shows. Trains are running through an optimization period as operators iron out the kinks. Some systems aren't operating at full capacity yet. Real-time arrival displays are being calibrated. Those emergency brake concerns that made the TTC cautious about opening, they're still being monitored and refined while technicians ensure all safety systems function perfectly. Now, if we were to compare our newly opened Crosstown Eglinton LRT with any other new transit openings around the world, for example, the London's Queen Line took months to reach full service. Seattle's Link Light Rail had similar growing pains. New transit systems are complex. You refine operations and address issues as they emerge. And how is the TTC staff actually feeling about the whole operational challenge? In one of the interviews with media, one of the TTC operator commented, "Every day we are learning something new about how this system operates. Give us time and we will be fully optimized." That's awesome. And one of the other TTC operators commented, "Ridership is growing steadily as people discover their commutes have been revolutionized. Word is spreading organically as more commuters experience the convenience firsthand. The real test isn't week one. It's how the system matures over the coming months." But the real magic happens when this connects with other rapid transit lines in development. Multiple intersection points creating a true rapid transit grid. Suddenly, you can move across the entire city effectively without relying on highways and cars. And the technology is just beginning. The Crosstown was built as a smart system, AI-powered operations, predictive maintenance, dynamic management during disruptions. This isn't just moving people, it's a city-scale infrastructure innovation. Alright folks, thus far we have decoded so many aspects of the Crosstown LRT, and I want to thank you for your time for staying thus far. Now let's get to that golden question. So after opening, was the Eglinton Crosstown worth $13 billion and 15 years of construction? Let me decode this, and here's my honest verdict. The cost overruns were significant, the delays were frustrating. Toronto proved we can build world-class transit. We just need to learn how to do it more efficiently. But the result, it's transformational. This line is already changing how Toronto works, where people live and how the city grows. The real test isn't the opening week, it's the next few decades. And for the hundreds of thousands of people who will use this system, those extra hours with family instead of stuck in transit, that's priceless. Have you ridden the Crosstown yet? Share your experiences in the comments below. I'm reading every single one. And if you want more deep dives into mega projects shaping our cities, hit that subscribe and ring that bell. Because infrastructure isn't just about trains and tunnels, it's about building the future one station at a time. Thank you for watching and take care.